What's up, fellas? Real quick, just wanted to make a video on the good old Arizona regulator, specifically the 3-position model and some of the issues that I've been reading, whether it be on Reddit and a lot of the forums, that it's kind of a surface level issue and can be figured out individually, but kind of just making this because I haven't really seen a video on YouTube anywhere of this thing getting broken down in depth at a bench or whatnot, and actually explaining, most people know how it works by now if you're even remotely an enthusiast, and FRTs and stuff like that. And just to kind of touch on some of the issues that people have been having right off the bat, mainly 90% of the stuff is in semi. The trigger's not resetting, or you're getting multiple shots and it's still, not that it's turning into a fucking machine gun, but you're still getting, multiple strings of fire, and semi-auto, it's still acting as an FRT. From my experience specifically, right off the bat, so this is just an 11.5-inch upper BCM, actual receiver, Midwest handguard, 11.5-inch chrome line barrel. I want to say it's Roscoe. I can't really remember who the manufacturer of it is. Regular mil-spec gas block. And tube, I think, MRO, good old parallax device. But in this specific build, and I have, one other example off to my right that's basically just a heat clone, short barreled M16 that has a converted 2-position unit in it, that these have both gone through the same thing. So right off the bat, this is from AZR, this is the original unit, trigger, safety, disconnect, everything. This is what has gotten to work in this gun specifically. This is per case what you find, whatever your options are. Really the only thing that you can, what I've, attempted to do is you take a good old DPMS FCU, cut your back out of the trigger bar. The disconnect that comes with this is bullshit. Obviously, it will not work with the 3-position safety. Get an M16 disconnect, and all this is basically is just tracing, and outlining. This is obviously marked S for stock, and then this is a homemade, or converted, I guess, for a better term, disconnect. So, but just to touch on the issues in semi, from my experience, it's per case, per gun. There's one back in the abode that has run flawless since it has been in the gun. No issues in semi. Runs perfect in FRT. 0 bolt bounce. I mean, just absolutely impeccable. It's a Centurion Arms upper with, I think, a Centurion lower. So, and then this is, PSA stealth lower, but whatever. This is definitely one of the more finicky things, just given what your build is and, how your things are built, what the issues could be. But right off the bat here, so with both of these disconnects, you have the one that came with the AZR, and then one was made. So from what I've even seen on Reddit, a lot of the guys that have been talking of the issues in semi, 90% of the time it has something to do with the disconnect. And I think a lot of this goes overlooked a lot because it's such a minute thing that it's almost impossible to tell. But if you can't see on the front here, it's kind of hard to hold at an angle, but the disconnect that's in the back is made in-house, not machined, but, ordered and then fucked with. This has a little bit of a, fatter portion on the front here. It's not as rounded, and it is slightly sharper. What I believe this does in semi, with the regulator, with the regulator in play, and it's going to trip no matter whether you shoot the gun in semi or an FRT. The main thing doing the work here is this notch cut out of the disconnect, so the right portion of the leg is able to rest and kind of avoid that portion and not actuate. That way you don't get FRT in both, and it wouldn't even work because of the disconnect override that method in the original 2-position. But if you're getting multiple shots in semi, the first thing I would look at is remove your disconnect, take a file to this, or You know, you don't have to be crazy aggressive. If you've been cycling it and function testing for, 15 minutes and it's still not resetting and you're still having problems, from what I believe is that, this disconnect and this, all the difference is if you're trying to make your own, and this can also even happen with this. I mean, some of the stock ones have been finicky in certain lowers, but I believe the disconnect's not rocking forward far enough, and you're not going to, get a full reset. This needs to be trimmed off slightly. That way it's actually able to fully engage your hammer and catch on the way back. Real quick too, I'll include some footage at the end of this or wherever in the video that shows both of these guns functioning. But this is a 5.4 ounce H3 Call Valley buffer with the braided wire spring in here. Same thing off to my right. This is what I have in everything. This is what works for my stuff specifically. Every H2 I've attempted to use has not shit the bed, but just hasn't worked. It's a little inconsistent. I mean, even with the H3, both of these are running, mid 800 round per minute. I mean, probably the 800. I forget what the shot timer had said last time, but I'll even try to find a clip of that. But we'll go ahead and piece this guy back together and just show really quick that this is what you should expect here. Go ahead and tap him back in. Excuse the buffer tube. I did have to remove the shouldering device, for lack of a better term. That way I'm not recording my bad habits. But step off to the side here. So like with any cassette unit, most of it, I'm not an owner of one, but from what I've heard and known, that you still get a lot of some motion in semi. The regulator is resting back here. The bolt's going to trip it no matter what. The main factor comes into the disconnect being cut the way it is. That doesn't allow it to actuate by knocking your trigger bar down. It still catches your hammer. So you're going to see a slight motion still in semi, but get your reset. This trigger is absolutely brutal. The semi by no means is it I wouldn't say pleasurable, but it is blood and guts. It is what you should, you shouldn't expect something crazy. But here's your semi. Go ahead and flip them around. And that's that. And then real quick, I'll show you what I don't want to say homemade unit, but modified 2-position regulator and a DPMS, literally whatever PSA uses in their guns, that trigger group with a 3-position safety. But again, Call Valley buffer, braided spring, DPM. Now the nickel plating on this is much easier on the semi, or the polished coating on this is much nicer. But again, you got your disconnects, which this is basically what's inside of this. This is nearly identical. This has just been drilled out and made room for the leg. This is not what this used to be a 2-position that has been converted. You can see it's a little shiny. Coating is missing, but this is cut to fit. It's not perfectly in line, but it goddamn does the job. So everything works in this. But this is another reason why, if you do own a 2-position regulator, congratulations. With a little bit of patience and general knowledge on how to use a Dremel, you now have a 3-position. As long as you order a disconnect, and you don't need the full auto trigger group. Obviously, a hooked hammer plays no part in this, and same thing for an auto sear. God, I wish, but real quick again. So it's also a low key lower. So quite fancy, but much cleaner brake on the DPMS trigger. Still, you get a little bit of motion. That again, all that is just the regular working, or the regulator working. But like I said earlier, the disconnect and the way that it's cut is not allowed to reset the trigger. And then we go ahead and flip over. 3-position, your disconnect's being held down by your safety. That thing's completely out of play, and now this allows the cam leg on the regulator to reset your trigger. So that's pretty much it. I encourage everybody, don't give up on this thing. It's been faithful to me and has, treated me well, right. And, I'll never forget, it was my first FRT, and it's an absolute fucking blast. So, work with it, be patient. I hope this video at least helps one person in, in their journey to getting this thing to function in their rifle. And also, by the way, this does work in a SIG MCX and a Copperhead. I believe it's Frankenstein Armory trip bar. You all know the deal with that. But as long as it has the pocket cut out in your upper, it's worth a shot. I would love to see this thing somehow make its way into other stuff besides AR platforms. It's absolutely hilarious. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Any questions or anything, please leave a comment. I'll try to get back to you as quick as possible. Like I said, I hope this just helps at least one person. And yeah, thanks for watching.